Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back once more. Some FaceIt League action being brought your way from, of course, myself, Dexatron, joining me once more. And no, your eyes don't deceive you. You did just see us about 15 minutes ago, finishing up with the South American region, who win all 5 maps to the absolute limit, coming out to one final fight that ended in very unfortunate circumstances. But hey, we're here in North America now, Dex. Extinction 0 going up against Amplify. It's 2-2 versus, unfortunately, 0-3 with an Amplify, who have been fighting back really hard, but have yet to actually find that very first win.
Yeah, we canceled Amplify, I believe it was a week ago, again in their game against In Control, and it was a close series throughout. But Amplify was never able to really get over the hump. It seemed like a lot of the team fights and a lot of the maps. There would be times where they looked like they were in control of a lot of it, but they just weren't able to put together a whole map to really get something going in that series. And we also have casted Extinction 0 already once this season, all the way back, I believe, in the first game of their season against Midori. That one was a really fun back and forth. Went 5, but Midori ended up winning that one and was undefeated up until very recently. So, I mean, both these teams, like we've said, are looking to kind of get going here. Extinction 0 has won their last 2 games against Tanuki Tempur and Iliad Helios. And if you're Amplify, you're just looking to get something going here. You don't want to be 0-4. Still a lot of the season left, though, and they still have another game to be played, because this is round 5, technically.
Yeah, this is round 5 for Amplify. It is technically round 4 for them. They have another game tomorrow, I believe, against Tanuki, if I'm not mistaken. Because I'm pretty sure they have a game tomorrow, is what it is. All right.
Yep, another game tomorrow, 10 p.m. against Tanuki Tempur.
Okay.
So, I think that's one of the other teams here in the NA Masters that's doing really, really good so far, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, doing pretty well. There's these teams that are very much rising to the occasion, doing a fantastic job as well. So obviously, if you're Amplify, this is really the moment you want to have an opportunity to bounce back, because if you can go, wins on back-to-back days, you put yourself back very much in that picture of being able to potentially get back into those promotion matches and obviously potentially make your way back into OWCS. But in Extinction 0, I mean, an org with a team that's already very much in OWCS, and I mean, I don't think we've seen a scenario yet where we've had an org with 2 teams in at once. I don't think we've gotten there yet.
I don't think you can by the rules.
Fair.
But I don't think you can by the rules. But I mean, having this team down here as well and doing as good as they are, I mean, is something to be very proud of, especially if you're the Extinction team here right now. And I mean, right now, if you're Extinction, you're kind of in that mid-pack group. There's no undefeated teams left. I will say that. I believe there are no undefeated teams left in this Masters tier, which does really open up a lot here and makes it a little bit more chaotic, especially as we get further and further into this season. So a win here tonight probably puts you back up into that top 6-7 teams in this tier, which is really, really good if you're Extinction 0. And like we already talked about with Amplify, you're just looking to get your first win here tonight, so you can kind of slowly start moving up the standings.
Yeah, that's definitely what you're hoping for in a situation like this right here, because again, there's still quite a few games to be played right here, but there is a cutoff at some point. Not every team is going to move on to those playoffs right here, so you got to give yourself the best opportunity possible. And for Extinction 0, they're set up in a pretty decent way right now. If they can kind of maintain the level they've been getting at, I think they'd be able to get into those playoffs. But obviously, Amplify, the turnaround's got to basically start this week right here, because unfortunately, if it's back-to-back losses, I mean, the chances drop extremely low at that point. But I'm excited to see which way it's going to go as teams currently finishing up their lineups. I imagine it's going to be the typical parties that we have seen from both squads in the situation right here, because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was Amplify who kind of has 2 different tanks they kind of bring in and out right here. But either way, it looks like things are solidified in Dex. I mean, these are some interesting picks and bans, I will say.
Yeah, especially for our first map being Oasis. A lot of the times you normally do see a support ban come out here with a tank ban. We do have a tank ban. It's actually going to be Malga, which is a very, very interesting one, in my opinion. Normally you see something like maybe the Hazard and Orisa come out, especially map 1. But our second ban, I think, is the more interesting one to see here. It's Sombra. And, I mean, we saw Sombra have a lot of value in our South American series earlier tonight. Hell, not even 30 minutes ago did we see a Sombra basically really change the tide of the last map of the game here. So Sombra being banned out early on here by, I believe, Extinction does make this interesting for the rest of the series, especially if they believe Amplify has a very solid Sombra player.
Yeah, it's not really a bad solution at all. You are using something earlier on right here, which obviously can be hit or miss in this situation like this. Maybe something you kind of take down the line of, what if it was a scenario where you had a certain ban available map 4, map 5 that perhaps, you know, you banned out too early on, but it's something you're just gonna have to see right now. You don't have to deal with it right out the gate here, so potentially get you off to a good start. But I think Amplify are at a point where they know what they want to play if the Sombras ban down a situation like this, because we see teams that have these players that are very much on specialty heroes, and when it's banned, most of them have a plan B in mind, or even a substitute that can just come in and play heroes to a more broad degree.
Yeah, and both these teams, much like a lot of the teams in this North American Masters tier for FaceIt, do have the roster cap of 7, so that we will be seeing probably a sub come in here tonight. I mean, subs were a big difference maker in our South American series earlier tonight as well. Made huge differences for both sides. But I mean, you have Anderp and Kibbs on the side of Extinction Zero, who I believe are going to be setting out this first map, and you have Sungun and Sky Sniper on the other side for Amplify. And Sky Sniper is a player I do expect to see throughout the series tonight. They are an excellent player, and I mean, we did see Amplify make a decent amount of swaps last time we saw them. I believe it was a week or two ago, but we're still waiting for everyone to load in here. But Oasis being our first map, not as cut and dry as every other control map. Yeah, you can still play a lot of varying compositions, but unless you get City Center first, I mean, you might not necessarily see dive as much. I really feel like Hazard is definitely going to be an option here. We have seen Hazard a lot on this map play all 3 points. Ramatra is another one I would expect to see, Orisa as well. Outside of that, I mean, Wrecking Ball Doomfist is definitely a possibility here, and especially considering what we saw earlier tonight, I would not say it's a bad thing. Hunter, what do you necessarily kind of expect coming into this map here to see?
Honestly, I do think the Ramatra is just one of those characters that can be played on most maps at this point. I think it's extremely versatile. You obviously have a map like City Center where I think like Winston is going to come back into the equation, potentially that Hazard. But I think teams have been more willing to kind of explore different tanks and have different styles. I mean, we saw the Ball earlier, the Roadhog. We saw a lot of different things. One of the tanks that we got to see, one of the things we got to see pretty early on was actually the Junker Queen in our first map of the series. I think Junker Queen, if you play her right, can have a ton of effectiveness, a ton of survivability, and it's something that, hey, maybe we get to see right here, because Dex, we're going to cut over to our first map, and if there was ever a time to have a Ramatra, a Junker Queen, it's going to be a sub-map like this. It's University to get us started.
Yeah, this is probably the brawliest of all the maps. I mean, yeah, you do have a small high ground on one of the sides of the map, or one side of the point, but the windows there aren't necessarily the best, and a lot of times you don't really see a lot of teams necessarily try to go fight up there either, because Lucio is a thing. If you play in Orisa, that is a thing as well, where you can get pushed off of the map, and a lot of teams do not want to try to do that. But coming out the gate, it looks like both sides want to be rocking the Orisa, which is not necessarily a big surprise. I mean, I was honestly surprised we didn't see Orisa more in our South American series, but we are starting to see Orisa pop up more and more in every other region as well. Outside of that, Freya, definitely knew we were going to be seeing them here. The support lines are fun. You have a little bit of difference. Juno is there, but right now, I mean, if you're looking at the side of, I believe that is Extinction, they're playing the Juno Lucio. I mean, they want to play really, really fast here.
Yeah, and I don't blame them in the slightest right here. Having Lucio Juno, it means you're going to go fast-paced, and Solsei being on the Genji is going to complement that incredibly. Leo's going to have a lot of sustainability as well, but Solsei is immediately going to get a little bit of pressure, but Motubu, I mean, just didn't even see a Kani Sunnyside able to help out with that equation right here, so Amplify gonna struggle right out the gate here, and unfortunately with that, I think fighting back here is going to be really difficult to do.
Yeah, but Amplify's done something really interesting here where they've already flipped the map, but you lose gap early on, and now if you Amplify, I think you're just going to try to get out of this fight without, you know, giving up too much to the other side, and it's going to be really fast. You don't really allow that many people on the other side to really build up as high of ultimates. Yeah, Sunnyside's already sitting probably 1 or 2 shots away from having their bolo very, very early on here. And if you're Amplify, I mean, that all kind of fell apart there once you lost Motubu early on. You're looking at these players here to kind of match each other throughout the entire series when you see them. And if one is always going to be the difference maker for their team, it's going to be really, really difficult for the other team to find a lot of value here.
Yeah, you see Gab's trying to get somewhere right now, but is getting pelted by Sunnyside pretty much every single time. Has to start expending cooldowns. Bolo shot going to be used, and Sunnyside ends up being taken down, so now Amplify, Doro opens up for them for a moment, but Jusu ends up getting rid of one, and Mutubu somehow falls, ends up taking themselves out right here. So unfortunately for Amplify, a decent start to the fight, but unfortunately just you can't engage after that.
Yeah, I mean, you got through the bolo shot, and honestly, if you're gap, I would be backing up here a little bit further. Yeah, the Orisa can, take a lot of damage. You're trying to build up some of your support ultimates here. But right now, you just need to have a quick regroup here and just go in. Muhiki's back there as well, and you do see Sunnyside come back. There's the Terror Surge. A lot of ultimates out here from Amplify.
Yeah, Amplify more than happy to instantly respond with that Orbit Array right now. Case them alive temporarily. Bodies are still a little bit low as Muhiki still has the ability to use their own. In fact, it's going to come online pretty immediate right there. Rustbach Crazy Cat going to see the cutoff of Motsubu right now as with both of them potentially going to be dying momentarily. That fight is going to come to a standstill as you can't really reasonably invest if you are Gap right here. You're going to try to die as soon as you can right now. Flip. Nearly coming through, but not quite as Winter. Going to be taking a late death here as they get one more chance to engage.
Yeah, they're going to get one more chance, but they're going to be walking into a proverbial buzzsaw of ultimates from the other side. Beat, Bolo Shot, Blade. However, you're going to have your own Terror Surge, your own Bolo Shot, and a rally here, but you really need to get something going here. You need to find a pick. Right now, Amplify has only found one elimination throughout this entire round.
Yeah, Bolo Shot is here right now. We are going to see a touch come through off the back of Winter right here. Unfortunately, it's just not going to mean a whole lot here. They're going to go back. They're going to touch right now. Winter is just going to get pushed out. Eventually eliminated. So for Extinction Zero, as good of a start as you could possibly hope for right here in Amplify. Just honestly struggling out the gate with the aggressiveness that Zero's throwing their way.
Yeah, this is kind of something we saw the last time we saw Amplify, is that they started off slow, and a lot of times it did take them a little bit to get kind of going. And right now, if you're Amplify, you need to be making the swaps here that are really going to allow you to find something here. I mean, Hazard coming out from both sides. This is kind of what I expected. This is really the point I wanted to see first, because Hazard is so prominent on this point. And if we do go to a point 3, you'll probably see the Hazard still. But outside of that, no big swaps for either side. I mean, you're going to see both these Symmetras swap back over to probably what they were playing last map here. So it's going to be Genji's here for the most part. Tracer was there for a moment, but yeah, for Amplify, you really are looking at Winter here to try to get into that backline for Extinction Zero and just disrupt them a little bit, get some kind of pressure off of the rest of the team here, so Amplify can find some openings. Yeah,
that's exactly what you want in a scenario like this. Taking the sweet time going around though is Winter. As point getting ready to open up here in a few seconds. Double connection on a Crazy Cat. Takes care of business. Sunnyside, just taking care of business right out the gate here. Gap taken down means, once again, point is essentially done and dusted right here. Sunnyside gets super low. Will eventually get taken out by Winter, but point still very much easily going to go over to Extinction Zero.
Yeah, they get Sunnyside. I mean, that's the only person that Amplify's been able to find this entire map so far. That's their second death here. But, I mean, Amplify, they have plans, it seems like, going into every fight, but right now Extinction Zero is just doing everything perfectly to disrupt them. And a lot of it comes off of Sunnyside being able to find a lot of damage early on. I mean, they found the first pick last point. They found the first pick again this point here. But I like that Winter's trying to focus them out here.
Yeah, I love it 100% as well right here. Sunnyside gets taken out early, so once again, a start right here for Amplify to make something happen. A boop on the Gap to give them a little bit of more space to work with, but that speed definitely there right now. Solsei, rough scenario, ends up being taken out by Motubu in that time, and now Amplify seem to be in a pretty good position to take this one away right now. Eventually, the supports look to be falling over, doing a really good job stalling out, but Leo will be the last person remaining and should be able to solve this out close to that 50% marker.
Yeah, and especially with Sunnyside coming back in, well, for the moment, Leo's just going to be able to stall this out here, and you're not going to see Extinction really throw any more. Okay, never mind. I thought they weren't going to throw any more bodies on, but Solsei wanted just to stagger it out a little bit more. It gets up to 54%. But right now, I mean, if you are Amplified, this is what you wanted here. You want a team fight. You got control of the point. You have ultimates here early before Extinction does. Bolos are going to be out here pretty soon, I would assume. But that pulse bomb from Winter, that needs to be a difference maker here. You need to get rid of someone with it.
Yeah, Bullshot comes out. Unfortunately, not a whole lot being gained right there. Solsei with an opportunity to help bring their team back and try to reclaim this point. And you might not need anything more to do it potentially right now. It's a 5v4. Pulse Bomb going to get used. Nothing quite out of it is Mobutu going to switch over to the Sojourn in this situation right here with the Moga going down. I mean, for Amplify, it could potentially be a matter of time right here. A little bit of stall being used as Gap going to drop last second for the retouch. Unfortunately, 30-some% looks like it's going to be the extent. 38 is what it'll be, but Mutobo getting Sunnyside on the way out.
No, I love that. I love the swap over here for Motobu going over to the Soj. I think Soj has a little bit more viability, just in consistency when it comes to damage. Yeah, you have the two-tap potential with the Freya, but just Soj as a whole, I think, is a little bit better at the moment. The Kitsunero's coming out here early for Muhiki. I mean, it's going to work out. It's going to be able to build them up to probably 80% at the least, maybe even 90 if they lose this fight. But oh my goodness.
Again, the turnaround there from Gap, the ball shot being thrown in, catches onto multiple bodies, but nobody down yet. This is a crazy investment here. The flip's gonna come through essentially for free. Crazy Cat the only one using an ultimate right here, and now this could be devastating if people keep getting caught out right now. But everybody for Amplify is just separated, unfortunately. Gap gets one, but I mean, this might already be done and dusted.
I mean, the B coming in here by Juzu is actually very, very interesting. There's the downpour out as well, but it's going to capture nobody.
Yeah, but Leo does end up getting booped back from the whip right now. Going to trade out once more as Juzu has been hanging around this entire time doing a great job, but eventually going to get forced back here, staying alive, just barely getting hunted down in time, and now 69% and counting right now. This fight realistically should, or at least probably will, decide the winner at this point.
Yeah, and I mean, give it up to Amplify. They have really improved from last point over to this point, but this DPS line, Winter and Motobu, they were basically quiet all last point. The going over to the Tracer Soj has worked out great for them. Motobu's actually been able to consistently get rid of Sunnyside here early as well with Winter. Just getting them out of the picture early on is something that has been really working out here for Amplify. No one's ready for either side, but Motobu, they're gone.
The one person who had an ult coming up on the line right now, Crazy Cat, it's just getting, Sunnyside just hitting every single shot. It doesn't matter who they decide to go after. Gap does get one, Winter gets another, so it's not over yet, but you see them right now, hitting every single direct into Gap right now, is they're going to have to let the point flip over and take a quick regroup.
Winter needs to try to get some pressure here off of Gap. They're not going to be able to do that, but they do get Soul Say. So you could see Amplify come back in here very quickly. However, Leo there, it's going to be very difficult. You're just looking at touches right now while you for Gap to come back, and if you're Gap, I mean, you're going to stick with the hazard. I would maybe have thought about swapping over to something else just to try to get you back as fast as possible here. Overtime ready. Sunnyside is the only one ready with an ultimate, but ultimates are about to be online here for Amplify as well.
Yeah, and Motobu is going to barely get this online. Gap getting rid of Leo is indeed huge right now. Soul Say still has the ability to deflect right now. They're going to try to get Motobu in the situation right now, but they're going to turn, take care of business. And it looks like Amplify should be able to clear things around. A couple more bodies left. They'll go to the third point, waking up slowly but surely. Motobu going over to the Sojourn, helping make it happen.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, that DPS line, they were quiet the entirety of that first point. I believe there was only one pick that entire first point for Amplify. There was one elimination. They really stepped up. They have really evened out a lot of the stats here. Outside of damage, really, for Sunnyside, who has 9,000, but again, almost 10,000. But again, they're playing Freya, who is a known damage dealer here at the moment. But I don't know if I necessarily like both these teams going back over to the Orisa. I really thought, especially if you were Amplified, the hazard did a lot for you there.
Yeah.
Now, though, you have to be very wary of that edge, especially if you're gonna be playing on that high ground here. But I love that Motobu and Winter sticking on this backline. Sunnyside and Soul Say, I mean, they start to slowly slump off there towards the end of that last point. They have to pick up the pace here again if they want their team to come ahead on top here.
Yeah, and we're seeing the all-out aggression immediately out the gate. They know hiding in the corner right there was Amolga, who managed to bounce out, so Amplify do get pushed out pretty quickly. But bright side is they don't lose anybody, so an engagement here is still entirely possible. And I'm going to be hitting the spear right there, but no finishing blow right now. As you can see, Amplify slowly starting to leak onto the point. Soul Say getting taken care of first and foremost. Going to make things a little bit difficult to pull back right here. You see Leo getting a bit frustrated with it. Going to decide to push in and find somebody. Unfortunately, going to get bursted. Going to get deleted and Amplify. This time around, looks like they're going to take that first fight away. They played it patiently. They played it right. And when that moment came, they took advantage.
And again, Motobu finding, I believe, 2 or 3 picks in that fight. This Soj has been a difference maker for this Amplify team. And like I said, at points, in certain situations, I think the Soj does find a lot more value than Freya. Yeah, Freya can pump out so much damage, but Soj is a little bit more consistent with it. And I believe the ultimate is a lot better here. But right now, I mean, if you're Extinction 0 here, you're starting to slowly lose grasp on this map. And I think Amplify is stepping up at the right moment. Gap is also really stepping up here as well. But hey, you get rid of Motobu, who's been the problem.
Yeah, now things can be really difficult. Sunnyside moving in right now, getting closer and closer to a bolo shot that is not realistically going to be necessary right now. Winter, though, still hanging around, has been a constant thorn in the side already throughout this first map. Has a pulse bomb ready to go and is the realistic touch for this map once more. Soul Say Currently in the 1v1 right now, Deflect has already been used. Pulse Bomb gonna be thrown out. It's a swing and a miss, unfortunately, right now, but Gap and the rest of the squad doing really good to hang on, make something happen. Bolo Shot gonna make it really difficult for anybody to do what they want to do right now, and Amplify holding on strong, and this long fight looks to be eventually going their way.
Yeah, and right now, the fact that Extinction Zero cannot kill Winter is really coming back to bite them. Yeah, you still had Gap there, but that should have been a fight and a point swap there for Extinction Zero. Winter just being able to survive for as long as it did was huge there. You look at Amplify here, coming into this next game with 4 ultimates ready to go. They really only need to use 2, and then after that, if they win a fight fast, they're in final fight territory. If you're Extinction Zero, though, you're going to have to invest something here early on. It's going to probably have to be a combo with the Terror Surge and the Blade if you want to try to find a lot of value.
Yeah, Blade gonna come online right now, gonna help get rid of one, gonna be pushing through, trying to find something right now. Winter gonna barely be able to survive for now, and Mutobu, he's gonna go for it, but it's in a rough scenario, gonna get deleted right now, is back on the point, 90% and counting right now. Winter gonna get rid of another, and Gap is, well, there was definitely a gap of space in that ult, unfortunately, as Terror Surge not gonna find anything right now. Rally being thrown in on top of that, though, but it looks like point is gonna be capped over for the time being.
I don't like that rally use there by Emolga. I really don't. I felt like once you saw all those ultimates invested by Extinction Zero, if you're Amplify, you kind of just give up the point here and hold on to your own rally, your own Terror Surge, and Winter's Pulse Bomb coming up here. Now you only have the Pulse Bomb, and you're walking into an Orbital Ray, which Muhiki is throwing out right now.
Yeah, going in super aggro with it as well right now, but Pulse Bomb gonna stick on the sunny side right here. Winter may have opened the door entirely to take this one away. Maybe the first map is Leo forced to back out, forced to use every cooldown under the sun. Just give themselves an opportunity as Emolga gonna get hit back with the spear on top of that as well. Sunnyside does have a bull shot coming back from the spawn room, but it means that the rest of the squad needs to try to hold on for the time being, and Gap getting pushed back further and further and further. Also having to expend all of those cooldowns, but the longer this is, I mean, the better the chances arise for Extinction Zero to come back up into this one right now as Sunnyside is indeed back up with that bolo shot. Unfortunately, Dex, I think it might be too little too late. Bolo shot is eventually going to come out. In fact, it just doesn't come out. So I mean, that's just that.
Yeah, and talk about an incredible comeback here for Amplify. After that first point, I mean, it seemed like they didn't necessarily know what they wanted to do. I mean, Extinction Zero looked in control. They had everything going their way. I don't know what necessarily happened. I mean, even on going into the second point, it took Amplify a little bit to get going, but once they got control of the point, you saw a different team. You saw a little bit more confidence come out from them, and that DPS line really there. That was the biggest difference. Once the DPS line for Extinction Zero started to fall off and the DPS line for Amplify started to pick it up, it was night and day there. Amplify looked like a much better team. When Extinction Zero, they slowly started to fall off there with that entire composition. And like I said, even with the Sunnyside getting almost 15k damage, it didn't necessarily do enough there. I mean, they were finding first picks, those first 2 points, they were struggling there. And even you talked about there in that final fight, you really want to see that Bolo come out, but it seemed like they didn't really want to put it on the Gap. They were trying to find an opportunity to get one of those supports or one of those DPS out of the picture. But sometimes you just have to throw it on a tank and try to clean them up.
Yeah, unfortunately, when you're in that situation, you unfortunately are forced to be desperate enough to have to kind of throw those in and try to make something happen. Unfortunately, the sooner is the better in a scenario like that. But obviously, it was a good start for Extinction Zero. Unfortunately, it just doesn't quite go their way there. So they get the opportunity to bounce back. They're going to be able to pick the map. Looks like, as we'll cut over, Rudasapi is gonna be the selection this time around, which we just saw a little bit of Rudasapi earlier. Became a close one, but was a one-sided affair for the most part. So, curious what the scenario is here, but we do know first ban is gonna be Kiriko. Interesting.
Very interesting, especially since we didn't really see Kiri at all that first map. But I mean, this map in particular, we saw it in South America. We had the Kiris for both sides, really finding a lot of value. Consuming Rush as well. Long lines for the cart to push there, so you have a lot of opportunity to get a lot of value out of it. Cleanse is big. It might kind of tell you which way one of these teams is leaning. Maybe playing something like a Junker Queen, which is something I would could expect to see here. However, I mean, it could just be back to the Orissas, it could be back to the Hazards here, it could be anything on this map because it is a really good push map because of the variety of compositions you could play. However, I really expect to see Freya's come out from both sides here, and when we saw that in map 1, it always kind of leaned towards Extinction Zero because Sunnyside did an incredible job on the Freya, even though, like I said, that DPS line for Extinction Zero really did kind of slowly digress as that first map went on.
Yeah, that is unfortunately kind of how things went down in that situation right there. So I want to see what the adjustment is really like going into a map like this, because honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if the composition stayed mostly the same, obviously barring whatever our second ban is going to be in the situation right here, because not having the carry doesn't seem to be heavily impacting either team from the outset here. I mean, we saw the comfortability of running stuff like the Lucio Juno, the Brig Juno. So that Juno pick might be something that's going to be reserved for a little further down the line, where it might be a little bit more, potentially more effective. But either way, we're waiting to see if either of the teams are going to make any swaps. For the time being, doesn't seem to be the case right here. I mean, I know at least for the side of Extinction, they typically kind of stick with the 5 that they have, but Sungun is someone that does come in occasionally in that tank position. I believe, if I remember, played primarily the Doomfist style.
And hey, Sungun's going to be coming in here for Gap, as we know what our 2 bans are. Like we said, Aura Kiriko being the first one. However, it looks like Amplify decided they don't really want to play the Hazard going into this map, and that's not necessarily... I don't think that's a big problem. I think Hazard on this map does find some value, but it really struggles at certain points. And, I mean, yeah, Hazard's still strong, but I would much rather play other tanks at this map, kind of like what we already talked about. Drunk Queen Ramatra, Orisa is still there. You could play something like a Doomfist, or like a Wrecking Ball, a Winston if you really want to, D.Va. I mean, the rest of the tank pool is wide open on this map now. I don't think Hazard was necessarily the one that you had to worry about much on this map, but we did see Hazard really did jumpstart Amplify back on map 1, and Extinction Zero wanted to make sure it didn't jumpstart them here on map 2.
Yeah, exactly. Scenario here as we get into Aruna Sapi here. Curious to see what the compositions are going to be, at least from the outset right here. And it looks like, from the look of things right here, obviously nothing is for sure until we get out the gates, but I would imagine Extinction Zero potentially being a little more honest as to what they're running from the jump.
Yeah, and hey, you see Matubu over there. That Sombra is back in play. Remember, that was banned out map 1. And I think Matubu really did struggle a little bit playing the Freya, but once they went over to the Soja, they're now kind of hovering. It was a difference maker, and it was something where, like I said, I think there's a little bit more consistent damage that comes out from the Freya. There's just a little bit more from it here, but Sunnyside back out on the Freya, kind of like what I expect to see. But right now, Leo on this Orisa going on up against the Winston on the other side. It's gonna be really fun to see, honestly, because you have to expect Sungun to be diving that backline.
You really do have to be expecting it right here, and being on the Winston, it obviously has his favorite abilities and has his ways to fall apart. We saw both sides of that last time we saw Sungun on this character in the previous series, where they had some great effectiveness, but sometimes simply got bullied out by the Orisa right here. But immediately, honestly, kind of seems to be the case right out the gate here, as they're looking at nobody except for Sungun, who's just getting forced back further and further.
I mean, I don't hate them going after Sungun. That's exactly who you should be going after. You get rid of Winston, I mean, you're going to have to see Amplify completely back up. But, I mean, even without finding a pick, look at what's happening here. Amplify has to back up because everyone is low.
Yeah, and you see, especially, you know, Winter, who's eventually going to get forced out, doesn't want to have to use the recall. Sungun, who's been below half health, I think, since the jump right here, is eventually going to get plenty of care right here. But either way, 35 meters out the gate here in this scenario for Extinction Zero. Exactly what you're hoping for here. It could be a repeat of what we saw earlier, Dex. So for the time being, they got to respond. Unfortunately, Sungun Crazy Cat down early and Amplify. Oh boy, not the start you're necessarily hoping for.
I mean, you get rid of Leo, though, and these 2 DPS have made differences in the past. However, I just don't think they're going to be able to do enough here this time around. So you're going to have to give up the forward. You're going to have to give up the first point and the forward response here in about a minute and a half. And Hunter, I mean, this is looking exactly like what we saw in the South American region. Different compositions, but, I mean, first point was capped in about the same time. However, you look at what Amplify is coming into the next engagement. They have Nano, they have Pulse Bomb. I mean, Nano's probably going to be given over to Matubu or Sungun just to try to get something here early on.
Yeah, 100% in the situation right here. Pulse Bomb gonna end up being used. Winter able to get rid of one right here. Juzu, he was taken out, but the stick on the other side gets rid of Mutubu. So everything working out Battlefield right now is Leo gonna be happy to reinvest. Gets a 2K Winter. Gonna try to escape with their life intact, and not gonna happen. So 70 meters and counting. I mean, Dex, this feels like a one-to-one of what we saw earlier.
Yeah, and right now, I mean, Extinction Zero looking like the mad team we saw earlier, going through, finding a lot of stuff early on, but this is exactly how Amplify played last map. They started off slow, eventually won a team fight, and kind of changed the entire momentum of that first map. They need to win a team fight here, though. They have ultimates to go here. They need to be able to get someone out here early on. Sunnyside, hey, they find the Sunnyside out early.
Yeah, and we saw the investment as well from Mohiki as well, but we did see the nano weapons from the other side as well. But 103 meters at the end of the day, you're going to eventually lose this fight here. And honestly, you can't really be mad if you're a Station Zero. You get an amazing jump right out the gate here. Your man just stalled out beautifully. Leo is going to die literally enough to where they should realistically get the good respawns here. I mean, you can't be mad.
It's going to be close, but they should be able to get them. However, if you are now Extinction Zero, you really cannot engage in this fight without Leo. You might just throw a couple pop shots out there and then back up. But yeah, that's going to be exactly what to do. Forward spawns reset, and now Amplify starting to actually push that bot here a little bit. But Ultimates are ready here still. I mean, they did a good job not really investing a lot there. And Mogo going over to this Brig is going to be a huge difference maker here, I feel.
Yeah, I 100% agree right now as you kind of see a lot of Amplify kind of sneaking into that backline area right now. And in fact, Mabutu just kind of wants to move in and find something right here. Unfortunately, isn't finding a ton right now. In fact, might get hunted down momentarily. Is eventually simply going to get forced out right here as Sungkyun going to move in right now with that with the Primal Rage right here. As Orbital Ray doing plenty from Crazy Cat and the rest of the squad. Otubu has gotten rid of 2 already, and it looks like it's going to be another fight win here for Amplify. Just need to clean things up because right now Extinction, at the very least, doing a really good job stalling out this point and might be able to re-engage one more time before the checkpoint comes through.
They might be able to, but I don't necessarily know how worth it will be for them.
True.
I think you just give up the forward spawns here and the checkpoint. But right now, Amplify, I mean, this is a much better... Like I said, they start off slow. They won one team fight, and everything's back in their control. They did a good job avoiding 2 ultimates and finding all the value they needed with their own ultimates they invested in that one. There's the checkpoint. Now they've got that lead by half, and I mean, they're doing a really, really good job now. And if you're Extinction Zero, you do not want a repeat of what happened last map here, where you just slowly lost control of it as it went on.
Yeah, but everyone's already getting low right here. No pulse bomb going to be needed from Solsei right now, as it's already a 4-2 situation right here. Winter doing a really good job just kind of trading back and forth right here, but, I mean, the bot's already been stolen. Best you can do is just try to get out alive.
Someone running away with their life. Leo now focusing in on Winter, but you should be able to reset the spawns. However, because you didn't lose, you know, your Winston or your Tracer there late, it's gonna be a really, really quick engage from Amplify, and that's exactly what they want here. But you have ultimates ready on the other side. Mohiki, though, I mean, that orbital ray might have been able to do a lot there.
Yeah, and that fight's over before it even really begun right here. As the rest of Extinction Zero just gonna have to back out, take the reset as checkpoint might be able to be reclaimed pretty easily. So either way, backing out as lots of ultimates about to be online for Extinction Zero now.
Yeah, checkpoint reclaimed here, and I mean, because the butt scratch already went through, they don't have to wait for that animation. However, like you said, a lot of ultimates out here. Pulse Bomb, though, gonna be making sure that we don't see that orbital ray yet again.
Yeah, Sungyeon unfortunately gets the ankles broken just a little bit right here, but it's not really gonna matter a ton. It's just an extended chase for it to eventually come to an end anyway. Leo getting taken care of, but getting a Molga down is important because that was the one for sure ult remaining for Amplify.
But Motobu is not that far away from their next overclock here. However, like you said, there is a lot ready here. Extinction Zero, but it's going to be really, really close. I mean, you're going to see probably about 5 meters difference on that lead for them. Pulse Bomb out there, going to be able to stick on the Stone Gun. That's going to force them back, but Winter finding Solsei out early is huge, honestly.
Yeah, and now Motobu going to try to move in the scenario right here with this overclock right now. Hasn't found a ton, but Terra Surge is going to catch onto a lot of bodies right here. Hoping to find at least one. We'll be able to do so. Bubble Shot going to come in directly afterwards with an orbital ray as well. That is a 4 ultimate fight at the end of the day. Meanwhile, that's only 2 that get used by Amplify right there. It was a much-needed fight to win right there, but now they're just going to have... Oh, never mind. They're still investing here. I don't know how I feel about the Primal Rage.
I don't know how I feel about it either, but it might be a situation at this point where they just wanted to make sure they got out and lived, because I think that bot was at a point where Extinction Zero would have been able to reset the spawns, and Amplify would have had to wait here. But now, I mean, only the ultimates are ready are 2 support, or is a support ultimate for each side. The rally, I think, is actually going to be a little bit more valuable here. I just think it's going to be that case. I think it'll be able to stun most of the members out, but Muhiki has been someone that's been dying very early on here, and that's not what you want to be seeing if you're Extinction.
Yeah, it's not really what you want at all right here, as hanging around is Crazy Cat, who's going to invest your opener right here and now, which, not too questionable, honestly. You kind of need to take this one away right here. You managed to get rid of Sunnyside. Leo might not be too far behind, but they're escaping. Mega Health Pack, though, is gone right now, so Leo is likely not too long for this world, but getting plenty of care now, and now the situation could be changing pretty quick.
Yeah, and Emolga needs to get off the car right here. Just wait for the team to fall back. It's actually going to be a pretty interesting fight here. No ultimates ready. Leo's the closest with their Terror Surge, but I don't necessarily see a lot of value coming out with that early on. Soulsave not that far away from a Pulse Bomb either, but, I mean, Pulse Bombs have been very hit or miss for both sides, but when they hit, they normally win team fights.
Yeah, Winter have been good about it so far, and you see if they can get another in this scenario right now. It'd be great to catch it onto one. Pulse Bomb comes out, gonna stick onto the shield, unfortunately, but Juzu still will inevitably be taken out with the help of Sunjin, who has been on that Orisa for a hot minute now. Backline being engulfed right now. Leo gonna try to find something with that Terror Surge. Not getting a ton right now, but Soulsay doing plenty for the squad right now. Already gotten rid of 2. Should see the points start moving forward more and more. 4 spawns should get deleted. Sunjin is gonna be able to get it for everybody else, but Sunjin themselves, very unlikely to get it. Winter looks like they're gonna join them.
Yeah, Winter understood they were not going to be able to escape that fight. Soulsay was right there. They would have been able to kind of check them all the way. No one has forward spawns here at the moment, but
true.
I mean, no one has forward spawns here at the moment, but right now, if you are Amplify, you need to win this next team fight because you're going to give up the forward spawns here. Maybe. Yeah, you're going to be giving up forward spawns here no matter what.
Yeah, unfortunate. And Moga, not the place you want to be, nor the time. Crazy Cat gonna die late as well as Winter and Sunkyun. Ironically, the 2 people who died late, the 2 people still alive, having to back out as Extinction Zero gonna be able to start extending their lead at last.
Yep, back over 10 meters here now with just over a minute to go. Could extend it to 20, which they're going to be able to do here. So if you're Amplify, you really need to win a fight here without truly investing any ultimates. However, you only have the one. You will build up to the rest of yours. However, Winter fighting Soulsay, that's a huge pick out there early on. Winter's been doing incredible work on this Tracer.
Yeah, it really has. Winter has been kind of the lifeblood so far. You'll see the aggression from Leo for a moment there, but kind of realizing at this point that these might already be a little too far gone. Juzu being taken out is pretty much going to solidify that fact, so they're going to go ahead and take the death right then and there. Nice cleanup, but now you're looking at a scenario with this late death coming through here eventually from Sunnyside. Crazy Cat dying late is kind of impactful, but they should be able to get back relatively quickly.
Yeah, but right now, you look at it here. This is going to be overtime no matter what. 4 ultimates ready for the side of Amplify. 4 ultimates about to be ready for Extinction Zero. You have to be smart with them. You cannot heavily invest into any fight here right now if you're Amplify. If you're Extinction Zero, you can invest.
Oh yeah, and they have to stay on the thing. Unfortunately, they have to stay on. They literally had to just go to the cart and leave the team behind. Unfortunately, that is going to do it right there. Pulse Bomb comes out. Nothing really going to happen right here is, yeah, that's going to do it. The early advantage, once again, playing out dividends as we're going to have ourselves a nice tied series. Extinction Zero. I mean, I've already said it, Dex. Getting off to such a big lead so early on, it gives you a ton of time to work with, where if you just 50-50 for the rest of the season, or rest of the game, you're just golden.
Yeah, and I mean, it's kind of like what we saw in South America. I mean, a team started off slow. The other team the team that didn't start off slow, they got a huge lead. And while, I mean, the other team was able to come back a little bit, they just weren't able to have enough time to fully complete that comeback. And Amplify, they made it really close. And they picked up the speed very quickly here. I mean, there was still over 2.5 minutes left to go on that time bank as they got within 10 meters of taking the lead. But Extinction Zero, like you said, they could have just 50'd out from there on, been able to kind of tuck the ball away, allowed Amplify to take it back, and it just would have worked out for them. That's what a lot of these push maps kind of boil down to. And Amplify, I mean, they had their moments. There's times, though, where maybe you could say they overinvested in the stuff and underinvested in the others. That Primal Rage you talked about, maybe an overinvestment. You saw Songun after that swap over to the Orisa, so that was probably something where they knew they weren't going to be sticking on the Winston much longer after that, so they just decided to use it there. I don't blame them for that. And, I mean, you look at the stats here, like I am right now, pretty consistently across the board. This was a very, very close map here for both these two teams. I mean, the tanks did excellent, honestly.
Yeah, they really did. I'll give it a quick look myself so everybody can kind of see what's going on. I mean, Gap managing to get in nearly 12,000 damage. Hell, I mean, Sunnyside, for as much as they died during that map, 11 deaths, still managed to output nearly 15k on that Freya. I mean...
You're looking at map 1.
Oh, I am looking at map 1. Hey, guys, guess who's a dummy? Me, I'm the dummy. I admit to it. Anyway, looking at more recent stats over here in the situation right here. I mean, I'm kind of liking what I'm seeing right now. The death counter, though, I mean, still, it's kind of back and forth, honestly. It's not super consistent, but Sungyun and Winter were getting out constantly, which is kind of, it's just what happens when you're on the Winston Tracer combo.
Yeah. But we do know what our third map of the night is going to be. It's going to be Circuit Royale here. And Hunter, we have some interesting bands coming out here. Baptiste is going to be one. May is going to be the other. And, I mean, we saw these two heroes back in South America find a lot of value for two different teams. However, they're banned out this time, and this map in particular has very, very unique compositions you can come out with here. Iari, Zenyatta is something that you could see. You could see Lifeweaver. We did see that in OWCS. We saw that in South America. You could see just the normal backline we have been seeing, but Poke has kind of been the name of the game here on this map for the longest time, so Sigma is an option. Hazard is definitely still there if you want to play the Ramatra. I mean, this first point in particular, you normally do see teams kind of gravitate towards the Sigma with a hit scan and a flexible DPS over there. Maybe 2 hit scans. That could be really fun to see. But, I mean, after that first point, we start to see teams swap it up a little bit, especially if they lose that momentum or lose a team, but as they go up the hill, then you start to see it become a little bit more brawly throughout the rest of the map.
Yeah, it does kind of start going around that way, and we've been able to see a lot of Circuit Royale earlier today, having 2 teams finish with over 2 minutes on the clock previously. And honestly, the way things have been kind of trending, the story has honestly been extremely similar between the 2 matches thus far right here. And genuinely, it would impress me if the trend continues from here, because, I mean, we were talking about a time bank before of around, like, close to 3.5 minutes, roughly, on one attack, and a little over 2 minutes on the other. Insane amounts of times to have in this situation, but I am looking forward to what you brought up in the fact of seeing what these lamps are going to be, especially in the support category, because I think one of these teams ran the Illari at some point. I couldn't say for a fact which one, but Illari is a character that can have a lot of value on maps like these, especially if you can't rely on something like a Baptiste.
Yeah, absolutely. But one interesting thing here, since it was Amplify that chose this map, Extinction Zero got to choose what side they wanted. They chose defense. This is the right thing to do here. Amplify, this entire series has started off slow. You want to try to make sure they start off slow on the attacking side, which is exactly what Extinction did here. So right now, if you're Amplify, you want to win this fight. You really do. You cannot afford to kind of be stopped, because you get stopped once, you get probably 2-3 fights before you really break through, because around that time you'll be getting ultimates. But I mean, you look at what Extinction's coming out with here. I said we could see the Ramatra. I really didn't expect to be seeing it on first point defense. I thought second point defense would be where we would see it, but no, they're coming out first point. They want to play aggressively, because look at where everyone's kind of standing here right now for Extinction. They are standing at this first corner. They want to be able to take an early team fight, while Jubu on the other side, on the Widow, they want to try to be able to find someone out. Looks like they're going to be swapping over to something else here. It's actually going to be the Freya, the first time since map 1 here. But Gap on this Sigma should find a decent amount of value here, especially if they're able to hit those accretions.
Yeah, Winter are going to be able to take care of business extremely quickly. What's really interesting at the end of the day, Mercy on the radar. Amolga going to be running there for the time being. Mercy, not something we see a whole lot of the time right now. Solsei staying very aggressive. Juzu eventually going to be taken out, though. And at the end of the day, I mean, Amplify having as good as a start as you would hope for, they're going to be able to break through this initial front pretty quickly. And the question is, if any swap-ups coming through, because the main swap-up you would consider is Leo potentially going to match the Sigma.
Yeah, and right now, you're just trying to make sure that if you're our Amplify, you keep this momentum going. Sigma, they're going to be saying no swaps coming out from Extinction Zero. Not necessarily the biggest surprise here. I mean, this is still a very good comp, especially as you get close to this first point where the brawl really becomes a little bit more stronger here, and that Ramatra will find the value. However, Mutobu, I mean, they've been a difference maker on this Freya, where back on map 1 when we saw it, they weren't necessarily the best. Winter on the Soj, though, I like this kind of double hit scan DPS line. Yeah,
and Gabbage just keeps struggling every time this Nemesis form comes out right here, but it's out right now. Winter again going to find Juzu in the situation right now. Mobuto might be able to simply go with the bolo shot right here, and that's exactly what they're going to do right here, not finding a ton. We'll eventually get rid of Solsei, though, as, hey, Amplify, very much still coming alive. Looks like they should be able to start clearing out the rest of this point as soon as Leo goes down, but the res comes up online. It's not going to matter a whole lot here. Leo going to go down, and for Gap and the rest of their squad, I mean, that is probably about as good of an attack as you could realistically hope for.
Yeah, and this Mercy that Amogul came out with here, again, very questionable whenever we see Mercy, but they've been doing a really, really good job healing the team and making sure when that damage boost is on any of the players, it is doing a lot of work here. It's working out probably a lot better than anyone really would have thought here, but you look at Extinction here, they're coming up to all their ultimates, and they're looking to stop them very quickly here.
Yeah, we're going to see the Flux being used as well. Leo going to have to try to block to sustain. Unfortunately, can't live through it. And now it might be on the back of Sunnyside to make it happen. Connection over onto them right now is Zuzu. Help them stay alive. This three-man squad making it happen. But now it's just Gap and Amoga, or Gap and Crazy Cat, and they're going to invest here, which is, it's crazy. And unfortunately, it's not going to work.
Yeah, that's an interesting use of the Orbital Ray. Not the first time we have seen that tonight from Amplify, but just very interesting. Right now, though, this is the point where I normally say you should really consider making that swap, and that's exactly what Amplify is going to do here. Going over to the Orisa, you have Winter on the Widowmaker here for a moment, just trying to force back Extinction, and they're going to be able to do that. Now going back over, Bolo shot out, not going to be able to find anyone there, and if you're looking at Extinction, they are in a really good spot, especially with its Orbital Ray.
Yeah, connection over on the Mulliga to be taking care of them. That's going to be another fight win here, and unfortunately for Gap, might not even make it back into the room, literally being blocked for a moment there, but will eventually be able to get in, get some care, and now this is where you're considering potentially the swaps. Is Winter going to go to the Widowmaker?
I mean, they're going to the Widowmaker just to try to force back, put some pressure, especially on someone like Sunnyside who is playing in the open. But, I mean, honestly, if you're Amplify, you need to find a way out of these doors.
You 100% need to in a situation like this right here. Leo still has an Annihilation right here, and honestly, this is an excellent scenario to make it happen. Crazy Gatho does get rid of Solsei, so be able to pull this back is possible, but Leo is going to let this loose right here, and is just not finding a whole lot. Mohiki has been taken care of. You do manage to find one at the end of the day, but you're being pressured back so far. Your healing is essentially taken care of. You're sustaining yourself through your Annihilation, through your Nemesis right here, so while you're, doing a good job, you will eventually lose this fight. Terror Surge gonna get forced out at the end of the day, but the bright side is that cart moved all the way back during the events of those last minute and a half.
Yeah, and that was the biggest thing, just getting rid of that time bank. Amplify did a really good job just going through that first point push, that they had a good time bank. Now you basically cut it down to 2 minutes, which is what you would normally see, even if Amplify had struggled a little bit on that first point, so you've evened out the playing field here. But right now, because Amplify had a difficult time getting through that hold, they have ultimates coming up here. Yeah, Extinction has some ultimates as well, but Amplify's in a little bit of a better spot.
Yeah, I agree in that situation right there. Juzu doing their darndest to be able to survive right now. It's definitely tough right now, but Blade has now been activated by Solsei, who's been doing a lot on the Genji, unfortunately. Might not be able to find the hack slash they desire, and in fact, will eventually get deleted right now as Winter. Gonna try to take a crack at it this time, and seems to be working out far better. 2K on the board. It is just Leo trying to die on the point. Take as long as possible, but that will be a quick death, and with 3 bodies on the cart here, a re-engagement is possible, but how easy will it be?
I mean, when you send up Gap and Motobu here, it's going to be very difficult to do. They should still be able to, but it might cost them a couple things here. Say that Bolo and maybe an Orbital Ray?
Yeah, Leo going to work in pretty immediate right here. Sunnyside has a bullet ready to go, and with Gap being dead, you're not going to need it right here, as Amolga being down means no res right here. Winter getting taken care of right now. Crazy Cat would be lucky to get out with their life intact, but for the time being, it looks like they should be able to do so. Maybe?
Yeah, and they're just going to be able to. They're playing behind that statue, so they're going to be safe for the moment, but they need their team to really come help them out. But right now, look at what Extinction's doing here. They're trying to put that pressure back on them, force them back into their spawns. Gap going back over to the Sig here very, very late is an interesting move, especially when you look at the other side having ultimates ready to go here. You can, at this point, you cannot afford to lose a fight. You really can't. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, Bullshot gonna come out. They're just gonna double down catch on everybody, and now they're just gonna play up here because someone is going to have to live and probably swap and touch. Honestly, wouldn't surprise you if they just sounded like a Tracer or a Doomfist or something to make a touch happen.
Well, there's a Wrecking Ball. So that's the touch you're looking for. Winter actually swapping over to the Sim. Not going to be a bad idea here if they can get the TP up there. They can get everyone to that cart in time.
Oh,
Gap,
no!
they're going to be put to sleep. Who's going to get the touch?
No one will. Oh, and that is a devastating way for that map to end. If you're Amplify right there, had a good start, had something rolling. Unfortunately, a team that just is having trouble with this amount of aggression. Extinction Zero trying to take advantage of it at just every single opportunity they can get.
Yeah, and I mean, the one thing I came into this map talking about was Amplify just needed to start off a little bit faster, or just start off at something that wasn't slow. And they did that. They started off fast, and it was a really good first point for them. But then second point, it just fell apart for them. And Extinction, they just did everything they needed to do there. They won a fight and then played aggressively, and it took Amplify a little bit to get going out of that. And that was a little bit of a downfall here for them. But, however, you look at this map, first point is still very, very difficult to push through. So if you're Amplify, you're in a good spot here. You have to play smart. Emolga sticking with the Mercy is a very, very interesting pick still. And Matubu going over to the Tracer as well. After playing, in my opinion, I thought they played a solid Freya. It's just interesting. Are we really going to see a Mercy mirror?
It would definitely be just a little bit strange if we did, but I wouldn't really put it past the possibility right here. I mean, it might just be the initial boost on the Sunny side, and then I imagine they might swap to, like, the Juno, potentially, but Solsei's also on the Hanzo, so, I mean...
That's for Sonar.
Yeah, true. But, hey, we'll see anything here.
Sonar arrow, just make sure no one's kind of hiding in that top room. Yeah, look at the entire swap come out here. Leo going over to the Diva. Ooh, I like this. I really do. They want to be able to get in that backline and cause Gap to kind of turn around. I love this from Extinction here.
Yeah, I am excited to see how this is going to go from the beginning, because that Diva can be extremely effective. I think still a little bit underrated in some forms, but Leo still got to be careful right now, because if they do get DMAC, remember, the almighty stall game that can be played out with your life. But either way, hey, Amplify more than happy to already kind of surrender this initial first part.
And I mean, you see defense teams do this a lot. They give up this first kind of choke point, and I like this from Amplify. But right now, they need to be able to deal with, hey, well, Solsei, they get rid of them, but Leo's still alive and kicking. That leaves Extinction an opportunity here. Yeah,
but they still did manage to get 66 meters on that clock, so they are just simply going to back out, get their fifth back, and just play safe for the time being, because they're not, I mean, you're realistically not going to see Amplify move up. I think if you're 16-0, you feel confident in that fact.
And right now, if you're Amplify, you cannot really poke your head too far out. We have seen Sunnyside absolutely melt other DPS players in the past for Amplify here, so you cannot stick out your head out too far, and you cannot get dove on like that.
Yeah, 100%. Multiple shots going directly onto Gap right now, who is just getting kind of devastated at the moment. Almost another connection over onto Emolga, struggling for a moment right now as Point getting closer and closer to getting capped right now, as Gap is going to have to be the person to stay on this cart pretty consistently right now, as Leo doing a really good job of taking all attention away, and eventually it's going to pay off. Bullet shot going to come out. Mabudu is going to eventually get one. Rez going to bring back Gap right now. Yeah, I mean, hey, Rez in 2025, we'd love to see it right here, as looks like eventually it's going to pay off for Amplify, as Muiki's going to go in with this all, and this is, I mean, we saw this earlier, but as they're going to somehow get two, but I think that might be the extent right there.
I mean, you get rid of Emolga, so if you can get Leo back here fast, you could try to take an early team fight, but Leo has a long walk back, and if you're Emolga, yeah, you're swapping over to the break here. I like this now. 100 seconds left to go. Ultimate's coming online for Extinction, but you have 3 really good ultimates online here for Amplify, and you need to use them here just to stall out and build some time.
Yeah, now Gap has the ability to turn around this fight with that Flux ready to go, but Solsei being taken, that means you're probably not going to actually need it here, as Juzu try to hang it around and make something happen right now. Rally going to be invested right here. Going to be forcing bodies back further and further right now. Gap going to have to be careful. Gap gets taken out, though, and there's not going to be a res this time around. Bomb going to help clear things out a little bit further, and it looks like Amplify falling should be inevitable.
I mean, they're going to try to stall us out as long as they can here, but Crazy Cat being the last one, yeah, it's going to be hard for them. 3.5 minutes, and remember, I mean, this is when Extinction kind of came alive on the defensive round, being able to stop all the momentum Amplify had going for them. And look, they're already kind of forcing Amplify to fall back. Granted, that is because most of their team got those back spawns, so they have to wait for them here. They still have a flux, and they're not that far away from a pulse bomb.
Ooh.
So if you're Amplify here, you do have a good opportunity here to try to win a quick team fight and take back control of this kind of upward push here, because this is a very, very difficult point to push up because of this kind of switchback uphill push.
Yeah, and you're noting pretty immediately Leo went back, swapped immediately over to the Ramatra after that first cap right there, and Leo is pretty much being targeted right here with this one, but Sunnyside has gotten rid of one. Blade being used by Solsei is just trying to kind of clear out the rest of Amplify right now, gonna be able to get rid of one, and unfortunately Dex, a touch here might not be too realistic. Obviously Modu is there, but I mean, they gotta hurry out there right now.
Yeah, Matobu is there. They have the pulse bomb, so they could try to throw it onto someone, just try to get them off the carp. They need to be blinking out there. They're going to be able to get there in time. There's the pulse bomb. Not going to be able to stick onto anyone, but you see the rest of the team come back out.
Yeah, and they got 2 picks too. Oh my god.
Oh, you just had the slide go a little bit too far there if you were Amplify, but Extinction Zero, I mean, they played this map really, really good after that first point on defense. I mean, they were able to force Amplify back and just put Amplify in spots that they were just seemed uncomfortable with. And I mean, this hold right here really was the main difference. They kept them there for about 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes. That was what won them this map, in my opinion. But now, Amplify, after dropping the first map, I mean, Extinction Zero, after dropping the first map of the series, now 1 map away from winning it.
Yeah, it is a little insane considering how we kind of got going from the get-go. You look at that very first round and you had the expectation, all right, maybe this might not last too long, but Amplify, I mean, they are here to play at the end of the day. They're trying to keep it close, but Extinction just has that extra aggressiveness with them. Leo knows that they can take advantage of that too. That's why they swapped over to that Ramatra. The moment they knew they had that first point locked in, the first thing Leo did was turn around and go and make that swap because they realized that Cap isn't going to be able to do anything, and it's not a skill issue at all. It is just an issue of Sigma going into Ramatra is not the best mix, and unfortunately, if you're the defender, there's nothing you can really do about that because you're in a scenario where you simply have to take the fight. You don't have the luxury of going and swapping yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. But hey, we do know already what our 4th map and potential final map of this series will be. It will be Sarabasa, and Amplify has decided that they want to make sure Orisa is nowhere to be seen on this map. That's our first ban.
I don't blame it whatsoever in the situation right here. It's been really difficult to deal with. Obviously, the Ramatra still very much can be a viable pick right here, but I think some of it did have to do with, again, the fact that it was them going with a Sigma into a Ramatra. And with a map like Saravasa, you're just not going to see something like that happen. You could end up seeing Sungyun come back in here to potentially run something like the Winston, because I think it can work on a map like Saravasa. But honestly, it's something we're just going to have to see right now, as I imagine Extinction Zero going to stick with that same vibe, as we'll be waiting for the moment to see if there are any swaps from Amplify.
Yeah, I mean, while we wait for that and the second ban, I would not necessarily be surprised if Extinction decides to ban out the Soj here. That has been something that we have been seeing a decent amount from Amplify, and it's found a lot of value, truly. Yeah. In these Freya duels, it's been back and forth, but it has always kind of leaned towards Extinction Zero and their Freya Sunnyside. So it's, I mean, that wouldn't be the worst thing to necessarily see on this map, but a lot of the times you do want to still have that kind of Freya in that back pocket in case, the Soj in that back pocket in case the Freya kind of falls apart here. But I mean, still, it looks like we will have Sungun come back in here for Gap, so that does kind of lead us to believe the Winston might be on the table here for Amplify in this map. Does find a lot of value, high grounds decently on some of the points. Really do find a lot of value there on the Winston, but on the other side, Extinction Zero, I would not be surprised if we see the Ramatra here. I really wouldn't. I mean, it did a decent amount to Amplify last map.
Yeah, I agree in that respect.
Tracer
is an interesting one. I don't necessarily hate it. Winter has kind of been one of the big factors for Amplify, so the ban does make sense in my book. Yeah, I mean, I don't have more than add to that. I think that's a correct choice. Is it the best choice? That's up for debate, but I do think it is a correct choice.
I think it is a correct choice as well. I mean, you have to remember back on the first map when Amplify came back alive, it was Winter on that Tracer really causing a lot of problems for Sunnyside. Same thing with Matubu, but I feel like the Tracer is just a little bit more of a constant problem for a lot of teams and a lot of players, especially at this level. Even if you're some of the best players in the world, you will struggle into a very, very good Tracer. But right now, With Sungun coming back in, we really expect to see a dive tank come out from them, whether it be Winston, whether it be Wrecking Ball, Doomfist, Hazard here, but it's gonna be the Winston. Ooh, I really like Matubu on the Sombra, but you look at the other side, Leo hovering over the Junker Queen, and I really like that, considering that the Orisa is banned out.
Yeah, it's hard to deal with a Junker Queen. You don't have something like the Orisa sitting by right here, so I don't necessarily know if you see this coming if you are Amplify, but still, you're gonna have people that are gonna be playing a little bit more independently, like Juzu, like Sunnyside, that you might be able to catch out at the red place at the right time as TPs come out. Winter and Soulsay gonna swap to Gades on both sides, as right now, I'm curious what the immediate response is gonna be for Amplify walking into something like a Junker Queen.
I mean, the Sombra pick is still a very interesting one, because you have to imagine that they were preemptively picking Sombra to try to counter out the tank on the other side. But right now, I mean, the Sombra can still do a lot to that backline, as, hey, they've already found Sunnyside, but you Winter.
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird trade, all things considered right now, but as both players have kind of been big carries for the team in different ways right here. Sungyun, again, is just getting massively pressured. Is going to have to try to get out. Going to have to use the bubble right here and surrender the point, at least initially, over to Extinction 0.
Yeah, even with the trades going back and forth there, Extinction just has a little bit more pressure that they can apply.
Ooh,
Matomo, though,
what?
finding Sunnyside, I mean, this Sombra might be a difference maker, but you lose them almost immediately. Again, another trade, even across the boards here, no DPS, but hey, you're starting to see the follow-up here from Amplify.
Yeah, and is the other way you're hoping for right there. Leo does manage to get rid of Amolga, though, so it creates a weird scenario, because now they're going to go and try to flip this point right here, but it's definitely going to be contested by Leo right here. Going to jump through, try to find something, but no point. Essentially going to flip for free.
And I mean, I think Extinction's okay with that. They want their whole team back here, but you have to know that Matubu is looking for hacks, looking for early picks, assassinations here. Leo, though, very low on health, struggling to get any support at the moment.
Yeah, it definitely can be a struggle sometimes right now, but Sunnyside is helping out greatly by getting rid of the Sombra right now. Cleanse has been used right now, so it could be a matter of time as trying to use the rush. Unfortunately, doesn't find anything. Sunnyside does find 2 before being taken out by Emolga, so now this could potentially be the stall game right now. Sungyun may try to fight really hard to try to get this Primal Rage up online, but it looks really unlikely as they're going to try to get out with their life instead and set up for one more fight.
Yeah, they're going to be able to get out. And, I mean, there's one, maybe 2 fights here if Amplify comes in and tries to take this one back very fast. But you're walking into ultimates on the other side. Crazy Cat invested the Kitsune Rush there, and he didn't really find a lot of value with it. You only kept Sungun alive longer, and you lose the Sombra here early on.
Yeah, and right now, you're bowling Leo right now, but has all the care in the world. Soulsay going to go away with the Blade right here. Going to just be hacking and slashing through. This should realistically solidify that very first point here to get things going right here as Amplify. I mean, Brightside didn't invest like a ton. They're going to have the EMP for this fight here, but just not the star you're hoping for.
No, not the start you're hoping for, but hey, that first point, you were able to win a fight, able to take it, and actually almost were able to win that follow-up fight on it. But you have that EMP, you have a Blade, you have a beat. The other side, though, I mean, that rampage from Leo is going to be huge. Sunnyside, they are clicking heads right now, which is something very scary to say early on, especially with someone who has a Deadeye ready to go, but you're looking for Tobu to really hack them out of it here the moment they hear that high noon voice line come out.
Yeah, I like this. I like the partial separation that we're seeing right now. EMP comes up online, gets eventually taken out, gets a big one that was going to come through. Amolga going to go ahead and hit the beat. It's going to come out more than in time right now. Amplify should be able to start clearing away right now. Leo very much still hanging around, but is the last person for their squad, so really is just playing for ult charge. Will be able to get a little bit, but at the end of the day, Amplify going to be able to win that fight as Mabuto going to go over to the Venture now, interestingly enough. Wow.
I don't hate it. I really don't. And I think honestly how that fight went, everything worked out there for Amplify. The EMP went off, hit 3. You got the Rampage out. Yeah, you had to invest the beat, but I think you would take that every fight if that was the opportunity here. But Matubu going over to this Venture, I like it a lot. Deadeye now out here from Sunnyside. That might just get them to the point flip for free.
Yeah, but remember, able to re-engage right now on that Venture is Winter. Going to try to find something with that Blade. Found 1 with a little bit of help right there. Sungyun, though, has come away with 2 right now, but it's not over. Sunnyside keeping things alive. It's a 3v3 right now. Make it a 3v2. Sunnyside getting all 3, and now, unfortunately, gonna have to escape. But a 2v2 means this is still not technically over yet, but if Sungyun goes down, it 100% is.
Yeah, and Matubu's nowhere near being able to escape that, so I mean, it was interesting there for a moment, but Sunnyside, like I said, they're clicking heads at the moment, and that is something that Amplify cannot allow to have have been going on here. And Motobu making their swap here again, going back to the Soj. I really like this pick here for them. Again, it was a difference maker back on map 1, needs to be a difference maker here. And now the only thing that's really going to be ready here early on is going to be Sungun's Primal Rage, but you're not that far away from another Rampage and Blade on the side of Extinction here.
Yeah, this could be a little bit devastating. You kind of have to slow roll this fight a little bit, try to care for each other right now. But again, we've seen Extinction Zero be more than willing to simply go in with mega aggression if they find this scenario works in their favor right now. But going to be able to go in. Booped up is Sungyun right now, who's going to start playing for this right now. You see all of everybody going their way immediately. Sitting at 95% right around the corner. Getting so close to it, but won't get it in time. Point going to be surrendered, and Dex, we could be one map away from Extinction Zero moving back into the positives.
Yeah, and I mean, Extinction Zero, they are playing this map perfectly here so far. Amplify, they've had opportunities. They really have. They just haven't been able to clean up fights. Right now, though, I mean, you can take an early team fight here, and forcing out the rally from Juzu is not the worst thing.
Yeah, Primal Rage is going to come out. Sungyun is at least going to get rid of one here. Could be looking at a second, but Knife is going to pull back. So now it's going to cause weird separation right here. So they're going to go and try to find something. And unfortunately, Sungyun's going to basically jump right into that unknowingly. And that's going to realistically solidify that one up. Sungyun will be able to at least escape. But at the end of the day, Amplify should get that point for free.
Easily. It's going to be free. The easiest point cap of their entire lives here. And you look at Extinction Zero, they still have a Deadeye, they still have a Blade. I mean, they're in a really, really good spot. Imogo's not that far away from their feet. That's going to be used to at least survive the Blade, but the Deadeye is going to be the thing you really have to worry about here. It's going to be used more as zoning. Sungun getting off the Winston here, going over to the Ramatra. I mean, hey, last-ditch efforts coming out here early from Amplify.
Yeah, Mobutu may be taken out right here. Beat can eventually be used after the fact right now. Got to keep everybody alive in a 4v5 situation. Sungyun also able to find one right here, so not quite over yet, but unfortunately losing on the tank means it is done and dusted, and we're going to be lucky to get out with their lives. Please grab the Mega Health Pack. Unfortunately, does not do so. As I mean, I don't hate it as Leo does go down right here, but you need to keep both of them alive. Unfortunately, Crazy Hat's going to die, and now, I mean, you got one fight left, and unfortunately, you are going to be walking right into the barrel of a Deadeye and an Orbital Right.
Yeah, but right now, if you're Amplify, you just need to get to this point, take control of it. You're going to have a fight here, and like you said, Orbital Ray and Deadeye are coming up, and you see Sunnyside getting ready for it.
Yeah, Sunnyside, weird scenario is in a little too deep, though, right now, as they still have bodies on it right now. But you're going to move in is Sungyun right now. 91% is going to be the flip. That means one more fight win is all you need right now if you're Extinction Zero to take this one away. But for the time being, Blade, Rush, still really good ultimates to have.
Yeah, I think right now Extinction Zero is actually in a really, really good spot, but they cannot allow Juzu to build up to a rally because that Blade will basically lose all of its value once that rally gets online. The Deadeye you can avoid. Same thing with the Orbital Ray. Even if you have to give it a point flip here, I think Amplify is in a really good spot.
Yeah, and eventually probably have to use the Nemesis form here pretty shortly. Deadeye is used right now. Rough scenario. Will eventually get to Winter. That is worst case scenario. Sungyun has to try to get this online. It's getting so devastatingly close. So close. Won't get it in time. And ladies and gentlemen, that realistically should be the death toll. Mobutu and the rest of the squad still trying to hold on, doing their darndest to try to keep this game going. Unfortunately, that should solidify it right here. Winter potentially going to have the retouch right now. Has to use the deflect earlier on. Will find the retouch. Dies immediately afterwards. It's just them going out of the point one at a time. Unfortunately getting taken out. No annihilation. So Extinction Zero moves up to 3-2 after that win. Unfortunately, Extinction, or more so, unfortunately for Amplify, 0-4 right now, and just not the performance you're looking for.
No, not at all. And I mean, I'm starting to feel bad for the Amplify team. I mean, they are playing very, very good, but it just seems like in the 2 series that we've been able to cast for them, there's always one thing on the other side that kind of slows them down here, and it was really the DPS line for Extinction Zero. Whether it was Sunnyside on the Freya or this last map with Solsei absolutely popping off on the Cassidy, it just seemed like one thing or another was always there to kind of stop them in their place. And I mean, I'm going to look at the stats here for this final map, and I think it was I thought it was a really close map all around. But it was just those first kind of picks that were coming out from Extinction Zero. They always seem to be finding more value. And even on that second point, remember, I believe it was Sungun who found 2 picks with the with the Winston, but then Sunnyside found 3 almost immediately after that. And that was a really big turning point in that final map for both sides. Extinction Zero, I felt like, especially if you were Sunnyside, you just never, or my bad, Solsei, you never really looked back from that moment. You just kind of continue playing with that pace. And like I said, going into those final couple engagements, if you were Amplify, you needed to get rid of Juzu on the other side, because that rally was basically going to cancel out everything you had on the other side. That blade was the thing I talked about. Well, what happened? Blade popped, rally popped right after it. The shield bash came in, stunned them out of the blade, and basically out of that life right there. And that was one of the final nails in the coffin for that map and for the series here. Extinction Zero, though, like you said, bounces back up 3-2. A really good record for a team that is wanting to keep themselves in that top 10.
Yeah, honestly, making a really case for them to be able to do so as well. They've had some quality wins. They've had some unfortunate losses right here. I'm excited to see how they do up against very specific teams as we kind of progress further on throughout this stage right here. But no, it's exciting to see this team perform, keep kind of getting better, because we saw them from that first game and how they kind of have developed and how this team kind of remains to be very scrappy and find ways to make that aggression work and kind of push it forward. And I believe with that right there, obviously they move up to 3-2. But checking a bit of the standings right now, that does put them in honestly pretty nice territory, up there with teams like Midori, like Dill Dragons, who still have to play their 5th match right now, but they're currently 3-1. But I mean, again, just keeping themselves in really good territory right now. So if you're Extinction Zero, not a whole lot of room to complain right now.
Yeah. If you're Amplify, though, I mean, the struggles to start the season is something that they are probably dealing with. However, they do play against Nuki Tempur, who is one of those teams that is 1-2 as well. They're still waiting to play their 4th and 5th games tomorrow, and then they follow that up with Boop Troop on Friday. I mean, this is a very, very busy week here for Amplify. They need to be able to put this game behind them, because they did have bright spots. They really did this series. They need to be able to put this one behind them, though, and get ready for Tanuki Tempur and try to find their first win tomorrow, because I believe they should be able to against Tempur, who has been struggling here a little bit themselves early on.
Yeah, I definitely would agree with that situation right there. So it is a potential bounce back game for them right there to be able to make something happen. And again, there's so many games still left to be played, so there is still a lot of time to bounce back, to get into the upper echelon and try to make something happen, because they clearly have something figured out here. There's potentially just a missing piece in there somewhere that isn't quite yet figured out. So maybe they'll be able to find it tomorrow, or at least start discovering it more and more tomorrow. Because even in a loss, you get to learn from a situation like that. But either way, ladies and gentlemen, again, thank y'all very much for joining us out here today. Had a couple of good games for us here. Had some outcomes that, man, I mean, some intense outcomes, I will say. Some of these maps either a lot closer or a lot more one-sided than perhaps we've expected in some situations, especially in South America, where it felt like, oh my god, this team that is winless might be able to pull this out. They may be able to make this happen, and it's a really good story, just like here with Amplify in a lot of situations. But, Dex, either way, I mean, just, I don't know. It's just good to have entertaining games like this, because we had a couple of slow ones at the beginning of the season, but it's feel like since then, teams have remained very largely competitive in most of these matches.
Yeah, and that's what you really expect here in the Masters here. Every series is going to be pretty competitive, even with those teams that have really struggled so far, like Amplify. They really did keep this series close in a lot of points, but Extinction Zero, much like what we saw Amplify the first time we cast them, Amplify really struggled to get over the hump. Extinction Zero made sure that hump was very, very hard to get over here tonight. So a lot more action to go. I mean, if you're Amplify, you still have 11 more series to go. Extinction Zero, they have 10 more to go. So there's still a lot more games and a lot more maps for these two teams throughout the rest of the season.
Yeah, 100%. So I'm excited to see those. Perhaps we'll cover some more of these teams down the line. You never know. But at least for today, that is going to do it. Though we do know for at least a fact we're covering one more game coming up this Thursday. I'll recheck the schedule because Hunter forgets things. But that matchup is going to be Dill Dragons versus Shikigami Midori. So that's going to be happening at 9 p.m. EST on Thursday, so same time that this one started, and that should be a good game in its own right. Midori does seem like one of those teams to beat right now, and Dill Dragons have some success in their own right, so I'm pretty excited for a game like that, Dex.
Yeah, both those teams currently sitting in that 1-5 area right now. Midori, the last undefeated teams, so that should be a really fun series on Thursday.
Yeah, so excited to get that taken care of then. But for tonight, that is going to wrap things up. So again, thank you all for coming out and supporting just competitive Overwatch in general, honestly. Because at the end of the day, it is nice to have people coming in here, watching this game, supporting their squad, supporting these players, as well as we kind of give them this opportunity for more games to be casted, more players to kind of have that exposure and kind of be able to actually go back and look at things like this. But Either way, enough of the Midwestern goodbye. I'm a little too good at that, living in Ohio. Ducks, unfortunately.
End it.
But Dex says it tells me every time we do something, Hunter, you just gotta say bye and you gotta leave. So that's what I'm gonna do right now. Thank y'all very much for joining us. We hope to see you on Thursday for some more Face It League